if you're in sales, it really comes down to numbers at the end of the day and effort. And you can't really get around about that. And you can say, like, well, I'm putting in the effort, I'm not getting the results. And then, of course, that's like a coaching situation. So what are you saying, what are you doing, and how are you showing up?
Hello, and welcome back to the My Future Business Show. It's Rick Nuske here. I am your host, and as always, thank you so very much for all of your support. Without it, this show just wouldn't be what it is today. Now, on today's show, I'm excited to welcome award-winning sales and creative marketing executive, internationally renowned speaker, coach, and philanthropist, Mr. Gordon Fraser, to the show. Welcome to the show, Gordon.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
It's an absolute privilege for us to have you here. Now, during our conversation today, you and I will be discussing what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur, the role of leadership in coaching, and the significance of personal branding in marketing. But first things first, where are you calling in from today?
Today, I'm actually I'm calling in from Los Angeles today.
Fantastic. Is that home for you, or do you get to travel around?
Yeah, it's sometimes home. I split my time between LA and London, so between the two. But since the pandemic, I've been mostly here.
Okay, look, in terms of, I've been checking out your Instagram, and I noticed that you're into water sports, mountain biking, and the likes. Tell us a little about, your hobbies and your sports. What do you like to get into now?
Right now, it's California is, I think it might be one of the better places on earth. You're Australian, aren't you?
I am. Don't hold that against me.
I won't, as long as you don't hold my Scottishness, the pomminess against me. Don't call me a pommy. California, I think this has lots of similarities to Australia in the sense of the quality of life it leads. And so without getting into kind of inflation and the cost of living, in terms of the environment, we have the sun and the sea, and access to so much sports. So I live in an area called Los Feliz, which is, I guess, East Hollywood Hills. I guess the most famous landmark would be the Griffith Observatory. And so I go trail running. That's my favorite thing, but I'm not doing that so much now because I've got a little injury, but that's what I love doing. I play tennis maybe 3 or 4 times a week, which is my big sport. That's my number one sport.
Are you any good at it?
Huh?
Are you any good at it?
I'm very good.
Very good. I like it.
With no modesty here. I would say I'm intermediate advanced. But I'm constantly challenged with tennis because I'm very active, and there's a lot of younger players that are coming in. So I've been playing a lot of 25-year-old. Exciting.
Yeah, I love it.
It's skiing, so it's winter here, so we're coming out winter spring, and the mountains, Mammoth, which is I think it's the Sierras, northeastern Sierras, is that northwestern Sierras. That's where I ski. So I'm actually going up on Sunday. So
well, look, I've obviously had a good look at your background, and you love to obviously look after yourself, but psychologically, what does it do for you to get away and be that, person in the nature, I guess you'd call it?
I think all of it. I was kind of a latecomer to sports, really because my brother was so talented as a sports person. And I kind of figured as a kid, we were kind of like 18 months apart. And I figured that it was no point, kind of going up against him. So I got into the arts, which was one of my talents rather than sports. So it was only when I started working in corporate that I started realizing the benefits of sport, mostly from a reduction of stress point of view, I would say.
Well, that dovetails nicely into, I guess, the question, because mindset obviously has played a massive part in your life to this point. We'll talk about that momentarily, but tell us about your favorite foods. Do you have a favorite?
All my favorite foods are things I'm not supposed to eat.
You too.
And I'm a walking dichotomy and hypocrite, I know, because I'm Scottish, so we have most people, as you know, Scottish people don't have any teeth because of the amount of sugar
that we
consume. So that addiction, is alive and kicking, but at least I get what was my friend says that she works out to eat, and sometimes I feel the same way. So my guilty pleasure, unfortunately, it's I have it quite often, is that's chocolate. I quite like chocolate.
Oh, wow.
And sadly, it's I would like to say it's the dark chocolate that I like. It's not. It's like the cheaper the better.
Oh, well, then you can't have any of ours. My wife works at a chocolatier. So,
Is she really?
yeah,
Oh, I love that.
No, look, no, she's top end chocolate. So, unfortunately, you're out.
I know. I'd be like ruined. I'd be like delicious.
No. So tell me, I always love to, this part of the call, because I learned so much about the people behind the business, because I know that business, fundamentally doesn't change all that much, but the people's story of how they got here certainly does. Tell us a little bit about your childhood, some fond memories if you can.
Oh, well, I think the reason that I've been successful is because I don't have many fond memories, to be honest.
Oh.
But I grew up in a seaside town, Ayr. So I'm Scottish as well as being a Pommy. I'm Scots, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up on the west coast of Scotland, and it was a time in the UK. So I'm 52, so this would be the 70s. And the UK was in a major recession and industry was falling. So it was kind of a challenging time to be there. The expectations were lower. And so I guess the fond memories were summer. I always feel like summers were longer as a child. And living by the seaside, I did love to be by the sand and, paddle my feet in the sea. And one of my fond memories is my mother said that I was constantly falling into the sea. So my mother was a bit of an oddbod. So she was I don't know. She kind of looked like a Marilyn Monroe, but not the kind of glam, but the kind of when Marilyn was younger, that kind of like wholesome look.
Yep.
But she used to walk. She had a Siamese cat called Shah that she used to walk on a lead, and so we would walk to the beach, and she would have this. She'd have me in my reins, and the cat in the lead as well. So, and I have got quite big blue eyes, and I think the cat was better looking than I was for sure. And and she'd take us for walks along the beach, and she said that I had this habit of like walking up, escaping from her, and running to the sea, the edge of the water, and commanding the sea to stop, and failing every time.
I love it. Look,
that's kind of a fun memory, I guess.
Yeah, well, look, I'm pretty sure that there'd be a lot more if we certainly dug deeper. But thank you very much. Anyway, I always think about you touched on your mother, and I think to myself, in my life there was certainly some inspirational people that have helped me become the person I am today. Were there any in yours?
Yes, I mean I was surrounded by very, very interesting people. And so I mean my parents were odd, and we're both entrepreneurs actually, and had interesting friends, and I was always meeting very curious people as a result, and situations that came up from it, but really inspirational people. Especially in my teenage years, I would say, when I was after school, I was working as I guess you call it a gas pump jockey.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, it was serviced petrol or gas, and there used to be a lot of kind of very successful entrepreneurs that came to get their petrol or their gas pumped at the station I worked in after school. And it's just really interesting that the conversations you can have with successful people who are secure in their success, their generosity of spirit, but also I've heard, I don't know who coined this phrase, but it's like if you hang around successful people enough, the ideas that they throw away that are like left, right, multi-million-dollar ideas that they throw away left, right, and center, because it just they're always thinking about ways of making money, and or doing well, or being entrepreneurs and philanthropists, etc. And so I found that inspiration of these people. And there was a man called, believe it or not, Mr. Blackadder. This is I know this is delving into the deep depths of my brain. I've never thought of this for a long time. And he used to drive, like, at the time, Jaguars were the car to have, the executive car to have, and he had a sports Jag, and it took about $150. It was such a gas guzzler.
wow.
But I remember like thinking, oh, I'm going to be like Mr. Blackadder when I grow up. You know.
I love it. That's great feedback. Thank you so much for sharing. Now, you talked about being entrepreneurial. What was your first experience? Mine was washing cars.
That was it. That was my first experience.
Oh, get out. Snap.
And I was so bad at it. I had a bucket and I mean, there was so many issues, but I worked. Have you ever heard of a race car driver? This is way back, called Jackie Stewart.
Yeah, of course.
So Jackie Stewart, a Formula One race driver for GB, and he had a garage in the town that I grew up in, called Dumbarton. And he sold the garage to his best friend, John Lindsay. And my dad knew John Lindsay. See, this is how it all works in life.
Yes.
So my first job at 15 was washing the cars on the forecourt of Jackie Stewart's garage. And it was terrible because they used to pay me £1 an hour.
Oh,
literally. And I honestly, I didn't have the self-esteem or confidence at the time to kind of argue against my elders and betters. So I felt like if I didn't go out, wind, rain, or shine, I wouldn't get my £1 an hour. And I was always dropping the sponge on the grit.
Oh no!
So a lot of the cars had maps of Europe along the side.
Oh goodness me! I tell you what,
I wasn't very good at it.
Yeah, get the scare out just to make it polished a little bit more.
I know. And the funny thing was, I actually looked similar to the boss's son, Damon. And so they used to they loved having me around because the customers that came in they loved to play on the idea of having a family business. And they thought that I was like another one of the sons, and so that I was washing the cars and then doing the gas, and then Damon was in the car sales and the parents who owned it, and it kind of like lended themselves to the image of the brand.
Yeah, well, that's it's a good start. It's a great story. Thank you for sharing. Now, in terms, just for the sake of context, you've obviously had a massive career and lots of great success, but how did it all come about in terms of, I guess, your education and your professional background? Tell us a little bit about that part of your journey.
Well, that was kind of a hit and miss. So my academia wasn't really for me, and I did really well at school, and I got lots of grades, but I kind of I guess they would call it ADD today. I wasn't very good at studying, but I could pick up enough in class to actually pass my exams. And I had got enough to go to university, so Glasgow University, and I studied marketing. And within 3 months, I realized I was so out of my depth and academia wasn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up waiting on doing coffee, working in a coffee shop and doing silver service waiting. So my formal education was really kind of like working in sales. And a friend of mine who I actually worked with, his father was quite a big wig in BT, British Telecom. And he said, "What are you going to do with your life?" And I'm like, well, but I did know what I wanted to do with my life, but I was embarrassed to actually vocalize it. So That's why I didn't make any big decisions as a late teenager, early 20s. And he said, "Look, if you're not going to make a decision or get behind yourself, you're going to have to get a job, but not waiting on table." She said, "Look, I can get you an interview with BT in sales, and I can't promise you anything, but I can get you the interview. It's better than serving coffee." And I went, "Okay, well, I'll do it."
Yeah, why not?
And that's really how that's how it all started, really.
Yeah, isn't it funny? It's just fortuitous events that we have in our lives can lead to something so much greater.
Yeah, and I think that some people know better for you than you know for yourself.
Absolutely. I always look outwards rather than inwards when it comes to making good decisions, I think. But I was looking over your website, which I think is fantastic. And on your homepage, it says, "I have the courage to live a life true to myself rather than one on others that expected of me." Tell us why that's important for you.
Well, thank you for saying that. It's actually multi-layered. That it's I had my parents really maybe my mum more than my dad had an idea of what they wanted me to do and what to be. And it's like I had an interest in boats as a kid, and so just because I had an interest in boats, I think my mother was really pushing me to get into the Navy, and my parents were always like trying to were introducing me to people who were in the Navy and stuff like that, and I thought, why do they think I want to get into the Navy? Don't they actually think I actually want to own a yacht? You know what I mean? There's something wrong here. I don't. So, so there was expectations of growing up in the west coast of Scotland in the late 70s, 80s. There was an expectation of what you ought to do and who you ought to be and what the life should look like. What I also should say is, in my teenage years, I was also grasping the changes in my hormones, and really beginning to realize that I was gay, and the challenges that brought up to me at that point as well. So there was lots of kind of the idea of that awful phrase authenticity, but certainly being true to myself was something I found really hard to do or to be or to actualize in my teenage years. It's only when I kind of stepped away from that and, went to London to kind of seek my fortune that I really started to behave in a manner that was more suiting to who I was as a person. And even so, finding my success years later, there was still expectation of how I should be in a leadership role that I just was not prepared to live in. I had to be living life on my terms, and that was it.
Yeah, fantastic feedback. Thank you very, very much for sharing. Now, for context again, tell us about some of your biggest achievements with some of the major brands that you've been involved with, because I know for about 15 years, you were the top global leader and the face of Arbonne's men's grooming line, Groomwell. So that combined with all of the, I guess, the brand exposure, tell us a little bit about that journey. How exciting.
Oh, thank you. I think that kind of that was interesting how that happened. And I think if you go onto Arbonne's website, onto the men's section, you can still see me there doing something with my hair. But at the time, this was 15 years ago. I think you're probably right. It actually started with a product that Arbonne had, and I am an independent consultant and an executive national vice president with Arbonne.
Yeah.
So at the time, 15 years ago, I wasn't, but they had I guess it was the company's was changing direction, and they felt that rather than use models to sell the product, why wouldn't they be wanting to use people who are actually using the product?
Real people? Imagine that.
Advertisement, yeah. And I guess I just fell into that. I guess I was the most successful guy at the time. I'm not sure if I still am. I might be in the US, but I have to check that. But definitely at the time I was, and they thought this is a great use of me as a validation, not only of the product, but also validation of the potential to the success. And I probably should say that my success isn't typical. You know what I mean? I've everyone's path and journey and success is down to their own skills and efforts, etc. And I think Arbonne publishes the averages on arbonne.com, but certainly for myself, I was very clear on what I wanted, and actually in terms of the bigger picture of what I wanted, they're giving me that offer really kind of fitted into my vision on the brand I wanted to create for myself within the company. So I was delighted that it's 15 years on, I'm still hanging in there.
Yeah, great feedback. So along that journey, did you always have this, you said earlier that you always knew what you wanted. Was that always about being the number one, or what was the journey for you? Was it just enjoying the experience? How did that unfold?
I mean, I think the number one happened. I don't know about that. I guess it's all if you're kind of like an A-type individual, and obviously I grew up in sales, like I said, and BT was my first adventure into that, and it was in those days it was all about the leaderboard,
Right,
and like the top 10 or the top 50. And I grew up in that I guess it was an aggressive achievement environment, and a very competitive environment. So I think there are timings and trends, and there's an opportunities and doors open at certain times. And I felt like when I started my business with Arbonne, that there was an opportunity for me to really go for that top spot. And I will say that it wasn't easy. I will tell you that right now. But it was very. I thoroughly enjoyed the journey, the ups and downs of it, and with that kind of level of achievement comes satisfaction for sure. But I guess I was looking. I didn't know if I could be number one because there were so many successful people achieving, but I knew that I wanted to have a go at it, at least be part of that group. I saw myself as part of that group. That's what I definitely saw myself.
Well, when you say part of that group, you were known as the man in a woman's world. Why was that? Is that because primarily women's products?
Well, I don't know where you got that from.
I know.
I think definitely, I would say definitely. At the time when I started with Arbonne, it was, I mean, it must have been 90, maybe 95%, even maybe more than that, women driven, because the company at that time the company was started 75, went into production 1980s, and I started 2008. So and they made their name initially off of the anti-aging skincare products, which were Swiss formulated at that particular time. And so that there was men were not using 1985 men were not using skincare. It was a bar of soap. And I mean, it's interesting, really. It's very curious to think about the market from a business point of view of men in the skincare. If men are 50% of the global marketplace, but prior to say when I joined in 2008, men still really weren't using personal care products. That's a business opportunity for me.
Yeah, right there and then. Absolutely.
Do you know what I'm saying? And then fast forward to 2025, you can't turn on your TikTok or your email or whatever, or your Facebook, Instagram, without seeing a guy at the gym working out, taking the supplements, or applying a particular grooming product. So, but at the time when I started, there was no men. And I thought, listen, I don't care what people think of me. And I won't be held back because people cannot see a market which is untapped.
Absolutely.
And so that was it.
You take advantage where you can. Now, I think it's a good thing because men have historically been very closed shop about personal issues, about personal hygiene, going to the doctors, all those things. How do you think it's improved? Do you think it's improving?
I think it has, but it hasn't. What I will say is that you don't know what your opportunity is going to come dressed like. Do you know what I mean? It's like some people think that success might be the Tiffany box, the blue box, the white bow.
Yep.
Everyone knows that wonderful marketing brand. But what if you have a Tiffany box in a brown paper bag? You kind of got to open the brown paper bag first to see the prize. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you've no idea what's in the box. Could be nothing. Could be 20-carat diamond.
I saw you on stage. Obviously, you've been on stage several times, and I always think about what it takes to push yourself out of your comfort zone. Did speaking and getting in front of large crowds come naturally to you?
Yeah, that didn't bother me. I think I know that it's like, isn't it like public speaking for many people is the biggest fear next to burning to death or something like that. For me, I actually found the more live and unrehearsed it was, the more excitement I got from the challenge. And I love it whether I'm in front of 6 people. And I think the largest presentation I did was in front of 16,000 people.
Wow.
At the MGM Arena, and it didn't. I just don't. I think if you know what if you know your profession, if you're a professional, you know your products, you know your business, and you know you're you're not there to pull the wool over anyone's eyes. You're there to help people achieve in whatever way that might be. Then I think the apprehension or the fear is a little bit self-indulgent and selfish, I would say. So
Just came
I've always,
naturally.
yeah, I mean, I've just been a show off all my life. So
Oh, well, we've all got our skills. Now, you have a no matter what mindset. Is that representative of that? And is that something that's had to, I guess, grow over the years? Because you seem inherently confident.
oh, thank you. I would say like no matter what, sometimes.
Provisional too.
It, it really depends. I think like when you, for me, in the context of what I meant by that was, if you're in a leadership environment, certainly when I was starting that particular journey with Arbonne, although actually I could use it to all the other companies or businesses I've been attached to, is when you put a goal, when you have it set a goal, and it's public, you really have to kind of like rise to that occasion, I think. And I think that's what makes a difference is for me is having that almost having a peer pressure aspect attached to it. So that no matter what, I think it comes from that, but I think it also comes from stubbornness as well.
Yep.
I think I'm inherently stubborn if I think I'm right. I don't like to let people down. So I'm a little people pleaser, but not massively. But definitely, I would say it's a case of I have to prove to myself. I'm like, if I got like a flat pack furniture, I mean, it's going to get done.
Yeah, it's going to get built no matter what.
Well, no matter what it looks like, it's going to be built.
It's a chair, but ended up a bed. That's fine.
You're like, get that gaffer tape. Who needs the screws?
Absolutely love it. Now, tell me, I look at all of the things that you have done, and I wonder, you've got your collage coaching, which I'd love to talk about. Now, if somebody's harboring I guess, a mindset that's not serving them, can they reset and reprogram so that they have a better mindset? Is that possible, do you think?
I don't know. Sorry. I think it depends on what the issue is
Yeah.
and where it originates. I think for the general person, most people, I would say yes, but not for everybody. In the same way that leadership is not a role for everyone to step into.
Yeah, because that's very, I guess, very personal to individual people that you work with. And I'd love for you to talk about college coaching near the end of the call. But in terms of looking after, I guess, yourself, do you talk with your clients about the importance of, I guess, physical fitness and, feeling good about themselves and those types of things?
I mean, I do and I don't, and I say that because with Arbonne, we have the gamut A to Z in terms of like people who use the products and why they use them. But on whole, because of the type of brand that Arbonne is, it attracts a lot of people who are already invested in that environment.
Right.
So they kind of are looking for a specific product that doesn't have this, it doesn't have that, that has X, that has Y. And so it's you're already kind of preaching to the converted
Right.
in a way. But what I will say is that in saying that, I will tell people how it is. So it's like that I think often in today's society where the attention span is so small, and people are trying to address, be it foreign policy or sell a product in a Twitter line, you think it requires more explanation than like a magic bullet.
Yeah.
And I think that if someone as a client is talking to me about what they want, it might not be one single product that can be the answer to that. It might be like a system or many steps, and not just the product, but also like you said, like a lifestyle addressment. Is like there's no. I mean, if you're like eating a very fat diet and you've got spots and you think you're going to use a skincare product that's going to help clear up your skin, probably not going to work because your gut is so bad.
Yeah,
So
you've got to look at other things. Now, I always wonder about people that are very driven and they get into different types of things. They're looking for opportunities and they start something, but for some unknown reason, given what you've just said, and I think about the 80-20 rule, 80% of the people will just fail within the first few months of starting. And
yeah,
then a very small percentage out of the 20% that remain actually become successful to
yeah.
your level. What do you say about that for those who are just starting out? What's the, I guess, the stick with it fuel that they need?
Um, well, that's a really good question. Thank you. You're right. The 80-20 rule Pareto law is certainly in operation. I'm not even the 1%. I think I'm the point something 1%, and which basically means it's negligible in the sense of like using it as an example of. But there is success to be had. I feel like if you're in sales, which I am, it really comes down to numbers at the end of the day and effort. And you can't really get around about that. And you can say, like, well, I'm putting in the effort, I'm not getting the results. And then, of course, that's like a coaching situation. So, what are you saying? What are you doing? And really, what is your lifestyle? And how are you showing up? All those sorts of things. And the success for some people may take longer because they've got more personal development to do, before they start seeing some kind of traction on their effort. But for me, I already came from a sales background. I studied drama at Lambda, so I was at the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art. So presentation skills I had, kind of easy on the eye. So that was a benefit. I feel like if you fall into the category of good looking, and this is going to sound awful, but it's like having a passport. You know what I mean? You're kind of in. And if you look at today's society, it really is like a badge of honor, and that's why the industry does so well, because everyone wants to look younger, stay fitter, and live longer, and all the rest of it. But if you don't have that as well, then you've got to work on your appearance, obviously, if you're in the health and wellness industry. But also it's education, which trumps all of it, is to be able to actually articulate what it is you do and why that's going to help somebody, or why a product is going to benefit someone and how it's going to look for them in the future. All these things add up, but at the end of the day, it's numbers. Any business you work in, be it a coffee franchise, you're flipping burgers, or you're like a one-man band, there is the price of your product, the margins that you have, the amount of sales you have to make. And one important thing that I grasped immediately is time leverage, the ability to leverage time. I really understood how that can benefit any person's success in any business where they have the opportunity to leverage their time, their efforts. And for me, once I was clear on what it took, I mean, like the numbers that it took, the target, the effort, it was kind of like working backwards. And I just made a lot of mistakes, but
Yes.
I think everything's possible, but there is so much to learn that may not be necessarily appreciated by some. I'm definitely coachable.
Yeah.
So I knew nothing coming into this industry, and went, well, I know there's lots of things that are transferable, but I can't begin to understand how this works. You teach me.
Yeah.
And then I'll do my best with it, rather than I know how it works and then failing because I think I know better. So
That's a very humble, wise, I guess, sage way to look at things. Thank you very much for your feedback. You've touched on coaching. I think it's time to talk about collage coaching and how that came about.
Oh, thank you. Well, that was something. It was always an interest to me, and I kind of like you. I'm going to sound like I'm disparaging vision boards here, and maybe I am in a way. But certainly in my business, I never did vision board coaching when in my trajectory through leadership. I never really enjoyed it. I always kind of rolled my eyes and thought it was just like people wasting their time sticking pictures on the board.
Yeah.
I just thought, oh, I don't see the correlation between that and success. It looks lovely and it's a nice thing to do, and it's probably very bonding, but if you're doing it as a group. But I mean, come on, is it going to pay the gas
Don't
bill?
waste my time.
I mean, honestly, I kind of like, you can see my head in my hands. I'm like, do me a favor. Sorry. So here, have a crystal syrup. That'll maybe help too. I'm more action oriented, but I too understand the concept of the vision board. And I thought I love the idea of it, but I don't think they work. And it was a friend of mine who actually studied art therapy who got me interested in the collage coaching rather. And she said, think about how you read a book. And she said, can you explain how you read a book by just looking at the book? And I was like, no, you got to read the book first to be able to then tell the story and paint the picture. She said, right. But if you go into an art gallery and you look at whatever painting on the wall, you don't have to read the book. Sorry, you're basically reading the picture in order to tell a story. Am I right? And I was like, yeah, I totally get it. And she said, and why is that? And she said, it's because it's likely that the visual aspect, we're creatures of visual appreciation as human beings, and so that is our number one language, is actually using our vision rather than our reading, in terms of like lines. So the brain can process the pictures faster to tell a story quicker than you can from reading a paragraph. And I went, yeah, that makes total sense to me. And then within that, if you see like a famous painting, so it could be like if you've been to Italy and you go to the wonderful chapels that the Medici built, you'll see these, like, it was all about religious paintings, and all these paintings told a story. I mean, you can look at the the Last Supper, and come up with a story by looking at all the scene and all the dimensions and what's going on. But even if you don't, you can tell a story from it. And that's what got me into collage coaching. I know, blah, 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 blah. I'm glad I had my teeth out. Collage coaching is the idea that, this is the other thing, sorry, before I get to that, is the other thing I saw from people who did vision board, who made vision boards. So in my business, in Arbonne, certainly, there was an incentive that was quite famous, and that was when you built your business to a certain level, there was an option for getting a cash bonus for a company car, essentially, which was a Mercedes-Benz in white, and it became quite famous for back in the day. And so people would have that on their vision board as something they want to achieve, and then they'd have their health corner, and then they'd have their money corner and their family corner and all the rest of it. And I thought, if so many people have that Mercedes-Benz on their vision board, why do we not have like every car in the UK?
It's a Mercedes.
Why? And do you know what I think it was? And I don't know if this is the same in Australia as it is certainly in the UK. It's definitely not happening in America so much. But I certainly seen it in the UK, definitely in Scotland, is an embarrassment of achievement or expressing your desires and your wants. Kind of comes back to that the saying of being the courage to live life on your own terms, not what's been expected of you. So imagine you're starting your own business and you've got your vision board, and it's on the wall, and someone said to you should really put that somewhere where you can see it every day. I think that comes with inherent problems. You're really putting if you're honest with it, if you're just like putting pictures up because you think it's the right thing to do, fair enough. But imagine if you're putting pictures on your vision board that represent something that's really important to you. The courage that it takes to put that in a place where other people are going to see it, I think, is immense. Because how often do people, you've interviewed lots of entrepreneurs, how often do people not understand what it is you're doing and why you're doing it?
Oh,
right?
Yep.
Or like, do you really think you could get the car?
Yeah.
It takes one person's negativity to just like embarrass someone not to actually want to achieve. And I was like, I hate vision boards for that.
for that reason.
But for exposing people's
soft sides, the undersides.
exposing them in such a way that can be really damaging, especially in those early days where you don't have this success, or you're not confident enough to someone to say, why don't you shut your mouth and focus on whatever else you're doing. So the lovely thing about the collage coaching, certainly what attracted me, was the idea that nobody actually knows except you what the pictures that you're posting on your board mean, because you're using the subliminal, subconscious meaning of the image to satisfy the goals that you want to achieve. So I post the picture of a car and that's representative of what I want to achieve. No, I might post the picture of, for me, it might be something that's movement that is connected to car, that I look at it and go, that's car, that's what it means to me, but nobody else will be able to explain it. But I might have all these different pictures of representations of I want to achieve, which to the onlooker, they just see it as a pretty picture, but and have no understanding really what it means to me as a goal setting opportunity. But they might say, I love that picture of the balloons. And I might say, yeah, that for me is representative of freedom. And, the reason I started my business is because I felt shackled to my job. I'm working too hard. I don't have time for myself. And I really want to feel free and able to soar and breathe the fresh air. And you see how the picture, it becomes a story more than like a picture of something that is just emblematic of freedom.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's great feedback. And I did notice on your website you had one image of what was your name again? And this is that whole imagery sticks with you more than the written words. So because the brain apparently stores language in different spots than I guess pictures does. That's really fascinating study, and something that people should consider more strongly with regard to the vision board. Now, about your creative marketing side, what are your core services in that part of your business?
Well, essentially, it is the distribution of product or service. That's essentially what it is. And right now, my partnership is with Arbonne. That's who I'm distributing via right now.
Fantastic. Well, look, there's certainly a lot for people to learn, and if they wanted to reach out to you to learn how they can get involved, how they can get your help with collage coaching, where are they going to go? Where's the best place to find you?
The best place to look would be on my website, certainly regarding the collage coaching. So that's www.gordonfraser.co.
Makes it very easy. Now, if you're on today's call, you'd like to get access to Gordon's work, and of which there is some great information on his website. I'll be providing a link back to that particular website after this call. No matter where you see it, you're going to find Gordon and all of his wonderful work. With all that being said, Gordon, great call. Thank you very much for joining me on the My Future Business show today.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Appreciate it.